I was escorted out of the building I helped build, while music, laughter, and champagne popped behind locked glass doors for the woman replacing me. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Ria, and that was the moment I learned loyalty means nothing to the wrong people. For 6 years, I gave everything to that company. I stayed late, skipped holidays, and fixed mistakes that weren't even mine. My boss, Grant, always praised my dedication. I believed him. I trusted him. I thought hard work was enough. One Friday afternoon, HR asked me to step into a small room. Security stood by the door. They said my role was being eliminated. No warning. No thanks. I was told to pack my desk while someone watched me like I was a threat. As I walked out, I heard cheering upstairs. Balloons. Music. Later, I found out they were celebrating Mila, a junior employee I personally trained. She was promoted into my position the same day I was fired. That betrayal broke me. I cried for days. I blamed myself. But then something changed. I remembered something important: many of the systems running the company were designed by me. They were legally mine. I contacted a former client who trusted my work. He offered me a consulting job. Then another client followed. Within months, I was earning more than I ever did before. Meanwhile, my old company started losing contracts. Grant called me, asking for help. I listened quietly, then said no. They escorted me out thinking I was finished. They were wrong. For a long stretch of her life, Ria poured her energy into one workplace, giving more than anyone ever asked out loud. Long after lights shut off, she stayed behind, finishing reports, correcting errors, and holding projects together when leadership fell apart. Sleep became short. Weekends disappeared. Still, she never complained. When supervisors missed deadlines or failed clients, Ria stepped in quietly. She solved problems before they grew, protected the company's name, and made sure everything ran smoothly. Praise was rare, but she believed effort would be noticed someday. That belief kept her going. Grant, the man in charge, spoke kindly to her. He promised growth and stability. His words made her feel safe, like she belonged somewhere secure. She trusted him fully, never doubting his intentions or questioning his decisions. To Ria, respect mattered more than titles. The people around her felt like a second home. She brought coffee for tired teammates, listened to personal struggles, and defended coworkers when mistakes happened. Among them was Mila, a shy newcomer who barely spoke during meetings. Ria saw potential in her and chose to help. She trained Mila patiently, explaining tasks step by step, sharing knowledge she learned through years of struggle. She answered questions late at night and fixed errors quietly so Mila wouldn't get blamed. Ria wanted her to succeed, never imagining harm could come from kindness. Each year passed the same way: more responsibility, more pressure, no recognition. Still, Ria stayed loyal. She believed in teamwork, honesty, and reward through dedication. She thought loyalty worked both ways. She didn't know that while she was giving everything, others were watching, learning, and waiting. The place she treated like family was slowly becoming the space where her sacrifice would be used against her. At the time, Ria only saw hard work. She didn't see the cost yet. The call came near the end of the week, just as Ria was finishing her tasks. A message from Human Resources asked her to step into a meeting room. The tone sounded casual, almost routine, so she didn't feel alarmed. She grabbed her notebook and walked down the hall without fear. When she reached the door, her stomach tightened. A uniformed guard stood nearby, silent and still. Inside the room, the air felt cold. Papers were already placed on the table. Ria knew instantly something was wrong. Grant was there, but he refused to meet her eyes. His usual confidence was gone. The HR representative spoke in rehearsed lines, explaining that changes were happening within the company. Positions were being adjusted. Her role, they said, was no longer needed. There was no discussion. No chance to speak. No appreciation for years of effort. The words felt empty and rushed, like they wanted it over quickly. Ria asked why she was never informed. No one answered clearly. She was told to gather her belongings immediately. The guard followed as she walked through familiar halls that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Desks blurred past her vision as her hands shook. As she passed the shared space near the break area, something caught her eye. Decorations hung along the wall. Streamers. A banner with a name written in bold letters, Mila. Small boxes sat neatly on a table, waiting to be opened. Laughter echoed from another room. Ria froze. Her chest tightened. Pieces began to fall into place. The silence from Grant. The rush. The guard. The decorations weren't random. They were planned. No one stopped her. No one explained. She walked out carrying a box filled with personal items and unanswered questions. Behind her, celebration sounds grew louder. In that moment, clarity hit harder than anger. This wasn't sudden. It was prepared. While she worked faithfully, something else had been quietly arranged. The door closed behind her. And just like that, everything she trusted shattered. Ria stood at her workstation with a cardboard box while a silent presence lingered nearby. Every movement felt exposed. Her hands trembled as she gathered small belongings, photos, a mug, notes she once wrote with hope. Nothing felt real anymore. Around her, voices dropped into murmurs. Conversations stopped when she looked up, then restarted in broken whispers. Eyes followed her hands. A few faces showed discomfort, others curiosity. One sharp laugh cut through the air, quick and careless. It landed heavier than any insult. No one spoke to her directly. No one offered comfort. People she once helped avoided her gaze, pretending to be busy. The space she once filled with purpose now treated her like an inconvenience that needed to disappear quietly. When she stepped into the elevator, the door slid shut slowly, trapping her reflection in the metal. Just before they closed completely, a sudden burst of clapping echoed from above. Cheers followed. Loud. Excited. Celebratory. Her breath caught. The ride down felt endless. Each floor passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the cable. By the time she reached the lobby, her chest felt hollow. She walked out without looking back. Later that evening, the truth reached her through a former colleague. There had been an announcement shortly after she left the building. A gathering. A toast. A formal introduction. Mila had been placed into the position Ria once carried, presented as the future of the department. The timing was no accident. Everything had been arranged down to the minute. While Ria was being removed quietly, applause was prepared for someone else. Her absence became the opening act. The realization burned deeper than anger. Years of effort had been erased in moments. Her contribution was replaced with celebration, her presence traded for convenience. She sat alone that night, replaying the sound of clapping in her head. It wasn't just a promotion party. It was a message. She was no longer needed, and they wanted her to know it. Several days passed in a blur before Ria finally opened her old laptop. At first, she only wanted closure. She needed to understand how everything collapsed so cleanly. While searching through saved files, she found a folder she didn't remember creating. Inside were forwarded messages, drafts, and internal threads she had once been copied on and forgotten. As she read, her chest tightened. Message after message revealed a pattern she had never noticed before. Detailed reports, ideas, and solutions she developed late at night were being presented under another name. Mila's name. The tone of the emails suggested confidence, authority, and ownership, none of which belonged to her. What hurt more was the guidance behind it. Grant's replies were supportive. He praised Mila for initiative and encouraged her to speak up more during meetings. He never corrected the record. He never mentioned Ria. Silence became permission. The truth settled slowly and painfully. This wasn't a sudden decision made after a budget meeting. It had been forming for months. While Rhea believed she was helping someone grow, her knowledge was being gathered, reshaped, and reassigned. She remembered staying late to explain internal frameworks. She recalled sharing custom workflows, troubleshooting methods, and planning tools she created through trial and failure. She gave everything freely, believing mentorship was a strength, not a risk. Now those same systems were listed as Mila's contributions. Her work had been repackaged, her voice removed, her value reassigned. The realization felt heavier than the dismissal itself. Rhea leaned back, staring at the screen, hands cold. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal. Trust had been used as a shortcut. Kindness had become a weapon turned inward. She understood then that she hadn't just lost a position. She had been studied, copied, and replaced step by step, all while being thanked for her generosity. The worst part wasn't losing what she built. It was knowing she helped them take it. Life shifted sharply after that. Routine vanished, replaced by long quiet hours filled with worry. Envelopes stacked on the table, each one demanding attention she didn't know how to give. Numbers no longer added up. Savings thinned faster than expected. Every ring of her phone brought a flash of hope, then silence again. She reached out carefully at first, former contacts, familiar voices, people who once praised her reliability. Messages stayed unread. Promises of staying in touch dissolved into nothing. Each ignored attempt made the room feel smaller. At night, Rhea lay awake revisiting moments she once felt proud of. Late evenings. Missed family events. Times she stepped in so others wouldn't fail publicly. She wondered where she went wrong. Maybe she trusted too easily. Maybe she gave too much. Maybe she wasn't as valuable as she believed. Self-doubt crept in quietly, then settled deep. Confidence she built over years began to crack. She questioned her abilities, her judgment, even her instincts. The reflection in the mirror looked unfamiliar, tired, uncertain, worn thin. What hurt most wasn't the loss itself. It was remembering how fiercely she stood up for others. She defended decisions she didn't agree with. She absorbed blame meant for supervisors. She protected reputations that were never willing to protect hers. She remembered speaking up when Mila struggled, shielding her from criticism. She recalled trusting Grant's reassurances, believing fairness would prevail. Those memories now felt heavy, almost foolish. Anger tried to surface, but sadness stayed stronger. Betrayal carried more weight when it came from people she believed in. She didn't expect gratitude, but she never imagined being discarded so cleanly. Each day felt like starting over without instructions. The ground beneath her confidence had disappeared. Yet beneath the exhaustion and doubt, something else, slowly formed, a quiet awareness. They took advantage of her loyalty. And realizing that truth hurt more than losing everything else, Rhea chose silence. No angry messages. No explanations demanded. She let the noise fade and focused on breathing again. Speaking out felt useless. Proving herself felt exhausting. She decided to move carefully, without drawing attention. One evening, she searched through her contacts and paused on a name she hadn't spoken to in years, Blaine. They had worked together briefly during a difficult project long ago. He valued results, not politics. After a moment of hesitation, she reached out with a short note. Blaine responded quickly. He asked how she was doing. He remembered her precision, her reliability, the way she handled pressure without panic. That alone eased something tight in her chest. They spoke privately, calmly, without bitterness. During their conversation, Blaine mentioned something unexpected. His firm had noticed operational problems at Holloway Consulting. Processes that once ran smoothly were suddenly failing. Deadlines slipped. Quality dropped. He asked if Rhea knew why. As she listened, understanding settled in. Those workflows weren't generic. They weren't company property. She built them herself, refined them through experience, and never signed them away. They were hers, every structure, every method, every internal guide. Blaine confirmed what she already suspected. Holloway had been leaning heavily on those systems. Without her oversight, cracks were spreading fast. The company didn't realize how dependent it had become until she was gone. Rhea didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply felt steady for the first time in weeks. Blaine asked if she would consider helping his team instead. Independent. Controlled. Fair. No promises of loyalty, only respect for skill. She agreed to discuss details. After the call ended, Rhea sat quietly, letting the weight lift from her shoulders. She hadn't fought back. She hadn't begged. She hadn't warned anyone. She just stepped aside and watched the truth reveal itself. What they took from her couldn't function without her. And what she built still belonged to her alone. Change arrived quietly, but its impact spread fast. Without guidance behind the scenes, operations at Holloway began to fracture. Long-standing partnerships weakened as delays increased and confidence faded. 2 major contracts collapsed within weeks, leaving leadership scrambling for control. Inside the office, tension replaced celebration. Mila struggled under pressure she had never carried alone. Decisions stalled. Questions piled up without answers. The role she stepped into demanded depth she hadn't mastered. Panic showed in rushed meetings and unfinished plans. Grant moved quickly, calling emergency sessions, assigning blame, demanding fixes. Nothing worked. The foundation supporting their success was missing, and no one knew how to restore it. The structure they depended on no longer held. While confusion spread there, Rhea moved forward elsewhere. Working independently, she focused only on results. No politics. No empty promises. Just clarity and precision. Word traveled quietly among professionals who remembered her consistency. The same clients Holloway failed reached out directly. They didn't ask for explanations or apologies. They asked for solutions. Rhea provided them without hesitation. Terms were clear. Boundaries were respected. Payment reflected value, not loyalty. Her new agreements tripled what she once earned. Not as a favor. Not as revenge. Simply because her work delivered stability where others couldn't. Trust returned, not from speeches, but from outcomes. Mila felt the pressure intensify as accounts vanished. Grant's confidence cracked under scrutiny from executives demanding answers. The company's influence shrank as quickly as it once grew. Rhea observed from a distance, calm and focused. She didn't celebrate their losses. She didn't reach out. Her silence spoke louder than confrontation ever could. Power had shifted without argument or drama. The space she once occupied no longer defined her worth. She operated on her own terms now, guided by experience rather than promises. What once depended on her tried to continue without her. It couldn't. And without raising her voice, Rhea reclaimed control, through skill, timing, and the quiet strength of knowing exactly what she brought to the table. Time passed, and distance softened the sharpest edges of memory. Rhea settled into a steady rhythm, focused on her own path. One quiet afternoon, her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. She almost ignored it. Something made her answer. Grant's voice came through strained and uneven. Confidence was gone. He spoke carefully, as if every word might break. He said the organization was struggling. Leadership demanded answers. Projects stalled. Direction was missing. He admitted things had unraveled faster than expected. Then he asked her to return. Not permanently, he said. Just temporarily. He framed it as help, as repair, as cooperation. He spoke about shared history, about how valuable she always was. His tone carried urgency wrapped in regret. Rhea listened without interrupting. She didn't react when he mentioned Mila leaving after pressure became too much. She didn't comment when he hinted that mistakes had been made. She let the silence stretch, calm and controlled. Grant waited, hopeful. Rhea thought about the past, the effort, the trust, the way everything ended without warning. She thought about the quiet nights rebuilding herself, the clarity she gained, the independence she earned. None of that required revisiting old ground. When she finally spoke, her voice stayed even. She didn't accuse. She didn't remind him of anything. She didn't demand acknowledgement or apologies. There was no satisfaction in that. She simply declined. The word landed firmly, without hesitation. No explanation followed. No negotiation opened. Grant tried once more, his voice tightening, but she didn't change her answer. After the call ended, Rhea set her phone down and breathed out slowly. There was no rush of emotion. No triumph. Only certainty. She didn't need to return to prove anything. Her absence had already spoken clearly. What they once dismissed had become irreplaceable, but that truth arrived too late. Walking away again felt different this time. It wasn't loss. It was choice. And for the first time, that choice belonged completely to her. Rhea never sought revenge the way people imagine it. There were no confrontations, no public scenes, no satisfaction taken from watching faces fall. What she chose instead was distance. Growth. A life that no longer required looking back. While she focused on building something stable and honest, the place that once pushed her aside weakened slowly. Without strong direction or clear structure, its reputation faded. Clients moved on. Internal pressure increased. What once seemed powerful lost its footing without noise or drama. Rhea rebuilt differently this time. She chose her projects carefully, worked with people who respected her limits, and protected the balance she once sacrificed. Her days felt lighter. Her confidence returned naturally, not forced. Success no longer felt like survival, it felt earned. She heard updates through quiet channels. Departments shrinking. Leadership changing. The atmosphere that once celebrated replacements now struggled to keep pace. No announcement marked the decline. It simply happened, unnoticed by those too busy trying to fix what couldn't be restored. Rhea didn't feel joy hearing the news. She felt closure. The memory of that celebration, the decorations, the timing, the laughter, lost its sting. What once felt like humiliation now seemed like a turning point she hadn't recognized at the time. That moment pushed her out of a space that never planned to value her fully. She realized then that the real victory wasn't watching anything fall apart. It was knowing she no longer belonged there. She had moved beyond the need for approval, beyond loyalty that demanded silence, beyond systems that drained her strength. The event meant to replace her became something else entirely. It marked the start of a slow unraveling they never expected. Rhea didn't need an apology. She didn't need acknowledgement. Her progress spoke quietly, steadily, without explanation. What ended for them became the beginning of something stronger for her. Not because she fought back, but because she grew forward. Do you think I made the right choice by walking away, or should I have given them another chance? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If stories like mine matter to you, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.